Okay, hello friends. Today is the last part of the video for general pharmacology. We will be ending this topic, actually this chapter, with some small topics that are important from the exam point of view. Okay. So see guys, I think we have in the last part of this video, last part of this chapter, we have talked about the potency. And we said that potency is basically the amount of drug which I need to produce the response, which I need to produce a response. So it means if I give a small dose of a drug which produces a nice response as compared to a drug which is to be given at a larger dose, I will say to produce that effect, I will say the first drug is a potent drug because with less dosage, I'm able to produce a response, isn't it? Guys, is it audible? So we have finished potency, we have finished efficacy. Efficacy, I told you, it's the maximum effect that you can have with the drug, isn't it? So I told you that you have to check the peaks of the graphs, isn't it? This is also done. We have read about slope, isn't it? We said slope, that is we in case of while we are giving a non-competitive inhibitor, there will be a flattening of DRC. If we give a competitive inhibitor, the curve will shift to right side, more on the right side, isn't it? So that is what we have read. Now see, whenever you are giving a drug to a patient, it has been it has been practically it has been seen in their experiments that some drugs when given together will give you a different effect. If I give two drugs together, they give me a different effect. If I give a drug A and B, that will give me a different effect, and I give A and D, that gives me a different effect. If I give A and C, that gives me a different effect. So what do you mean by this A, B, C, D? What is this business? Basically, we are talking about the, for example, I give you an example like this. I have a drug A, and with that I give a drug B. If by giving these two drugs, I am getting the effect as 2. This is 1. It had a 1 internal effect. Or let me take 2. Okay. It had a 2 internal effect, and it also had an individually 2. Individually, if I would have given this drug, it could have given me what? 2. The effect would have been 2. What means number? We are saying, okay, let me say like this. Don't get confused with numbers. Otherwise, you will get 2 with 2, 2 with 3. So if it was 1 plus, this is this plus, then you will get plus plus. It is you are having a 2 effect. That means these two drugs, when I gave them together, they gave me what? They gave me the total of their individual effects. That means the plus 1 and plus 1 gave me plus 2. It means the effects of these drugs have combined together, have added together to give the effect. So that means if we give such two drugs which on giving together gives an effect which is equal to the sum of their individual effects, will be called an additive drug effect. Will be called an additive drug effect. This is an example of additive drug effect. Mostly you have seen aspirin with acetaminophen. Acetaminophen. You have seen aspirin with acetaminophen. Aspirin has a plus 1, and individually this acetaminophen has plus 1. You are getting plus 2. That is the additive effect. Okay. Second word is uh, uh, potentiation. What is potentiation? For before starting that, I have to synergism. Before saying synergism, I have to say permissive. So let me tell you first another example. See, I have a substance A. I have a substance B. You should fully focus here. Right now, you should focus here. You have a substance A. You have a substance B. Okay. Just a second. What happened to this? Just a second. Just a second. Zoom. Record. Okay. Recording is happening. I think the screen is visible, guys. Is everything fine? Is everything fine? Okay. Okay. Thank you. So thank you. So if you see a substance A and I have a substance B. So substance B, if you want the effects of substance B, you should give A with it. If you want to have the 100% effects of substance B, you should give substance A along with it. This concept is called permissive effect. This concept is called permissive effect. Permissive effect means, for example, there is so beautiful example, cortisol and catecholamine. If you want the catecholamine to respond you nicely, you should give cortisol with it. If you want a nice response, you should give cortisol with catecholamines. So once they give you an objective question and they say you which of the following has a permissive effect, directly put cortisol, catecholamine. When they tell you it is an additive effect, one of the example, aspirin, acetaminophen. Is it clear, guys? Is it clear? Some people find it difficult. Is it clear? I have tried to summarize it. Is it clear, friends? Just at least give me a smile that sir, it's okay, so that I can understand that yeah, things are going smoothly. Okay, okay. Second effect with this was additive, this was permissive. Then I should say there should be something called synergistic effect. Synergistic effect means I have a drug A. This is where you get into confusion. This is the place where you land in confusion. You get confused with synergism. If I ask you what is the difference between synergism and additive effect, you will say, sir, it is the one and the same thing. And you always in your videos, even people, they speak that it is an additive effect is equal to synergism, and they do I mean to say they flip these things. They say these are one and the same thing, but it's not. Right now you'll understand why it is not. A substance A, another substance B, when I give them together, whatever total I get, that is not equal to +2. That is not equal to +2. That is greater than +2. This concept is called synergism. This concept is called synergism. That's why we give clopidogrel with aspirin. Clopidogrel with aspirin. Are we noting in the notebooks or not? Or we are giving ourselves time to go to home and then search the books, then write examples. Okay, clopidogrel aspirin is a synergistic effect. Permissive effect is cortisol with catecholamines. Additive effect is aspirin and acetaminophen. Second concept after that is potentiation. Guys, potentiation means actually synergism, but what is the difference? Same like synergism. What is the difference? I have a drug A, I have a drug B, and drug B is not having any what to say, no pharmacological action. Or you can say no therapeutic action actually. So no pharmacological action, no therapeutic action. But once I give this drug with A, the A's effectiveness increases. Is it clear, guys? Itself, it was nothing. But once you joined this with someone, you gave a beautiful effect. You made that person high. For example, this potentiation is example of me and you. This is, I can't write my name because I don't want to disclose who I am. But yeah, the person who is teaching you, for example, is B, and my students are A. So what I do, you people are great. You people have enough potential. You people are intelligent. You people are hardworking. Once I'm nothing. I am nothing. But once I am with you, your greatness increases, your potential increases, your intellectual capability increases, your hardworking capacity increases, your confidence increases. Is it clear? This is the concept of potentiation. That means it was more or less similar to synergism. But the effect was that in synergism, once I was giving substances A and B together, the sum of their individual effects was greater than their individual effects. But in potentiation, I have a B drug like me, who is nothing, who is not having any therapeutic action. But once I am with you, I am increasing your action. I am increasing your therapeutic potential. So remember from potential my example. This way you won't confuse. Potential, potentiation, yeah, sir and me. Okay, same thing. I can tell you, for example, if you give in the Parkinsonism, you are giving what? Carbidopa and levodopa, isn't it? So what will happen once you give carbidopa? Carbidopa will inhibit the enzyme. It will inhibit the enzyme periphery in the periphery to prevent the production or conversion of levodopa. So carbidopa is only inhibiting the enzyme. So that means I am having 2 plus 0 effect. But 2 plus 0 is getting greater than 2. 1 plus 0 is getting greater than 1. 5 plus 0 is getting 5 greater than 5. That means I have increased its effect with being 0. So I was 0. You were 1 or 2 or 3. So that's what examples I'm writing here. Is it clear, guys? Another example, another concept of drug combinations. Why don't we give an example of antagonism or antagonistic effect? You give A drug plus B drug together. This was plus 1, this was plus 1. What you are getting is less than plus 2. Is it clear, guys? So their individual potential was plus 1 plus 1. This is the example of a teacher, or this is an example of a person who does not want his student to move forward. He decreases the effect when he is with him. This is you. This is your friend. This friend does not want you. Maybe every friend is good friend, but yeah, some friends are not good. He does not want you to grow. So what will happen? Once he is with you, your individual plus 1 effect is still not getting. You are getting less than 2. Or a teacher who is, once you are alone, you are working more hard, you are learning very nicely, everything is happening. But once you have this teacher with you, he always keeps on putting, degrading you, pulling your leg, demoralizing you. So you have an antagonistic effect. This is what is happening once you are giving an ethanol. Ethanol is a drug of choice for methanol toxicity. Methanol toxicity, you are decreasing its effect. Both are having an effect. Both are substances, but yeah, the effect with methanol, the toxicity will get less once you give an ethanol. Is it clear, guys? This is what is happening once you are giving them. Or you also have, once you are giving hydralazines or, phenylephrines, LSDs, you have another effect. I forgot to tell you, that is tachyphylactic effect. In tachyphylactic effect, what is the meaning of tachyphylactic effect? Is once I am giving a drug, today I give a drug, tomorrow again I give a drug, next day again, next day again, next day again, next day again. It is repetitive. It is repetitive in nature. What will happen? There will be acute decrease in the drug. Once you are repeatedly administrating a drug, I am giving you examples in which case it will happen. It will lead to an sudden acute decrease. For example, this happens in many drugs. I can say phenylephrine, nitrates, hydralazine, okay, LSDs. So these are the examples where you have tachyphylactic effects. Is it clear, friends? Is it clear? So can we have a 2-minute review? So I told you in additive effect, what is happening in the additive effect we have. Where is the additive effect? Yeah, this is the additive effect, okay? In the additive effect, we said there is A and B is a substance, and once you equate them, once you bring them together, the sum will increase. The sum will be equal. Sum will be equal. +1 + 1 give +2. Permissive effect, guys. Permissive effect is once you have a substance A, and that A, if you give that A to the substance B, the effects of the B will increase. Okay, it is important to give. It's required. It is needed by the substance B so that it can have the effect. For example, the cortisol and catecholamine. Synergistic effect is once you are giving two substances, that is A and B together, the sum will get greater than their individual effects. Clopidogrel, aspirin. Potentiation means equal to synergism, but yeah, B is not having itself a therapeutic action, but once it is giving drug A, will increase the action of that drug. That is what is happening in the carbidopa. Carbidopa is inhibiting the enzyme and hence helping me in the inhibition of the conversion of levodopa in the peripheral tissues. Antagonistic drug effect is that you have a substance A, you have a substance B, you are giving them together, the sum of their individual effects is less than the sum which you are getting is less than their individual effects, will be seen in ethanol, drug of choice or antidote for methanol toxicity. Tachyphylactic action. Tachyphylactic action says once you are giving a repetitive administration of the drug will lead to an acute decrease in the response to that drug, as seen with hydralazine, as seen with nitrates, as seen with phenylephrine, as seen with LSD and niacin also. So this is the concept you have to remember. I hope there is no confusion with this. It's simple concept, but there are some 2-3 tongue twisters or 2-3 are I know, but you have to read them again, reread, and you will get used to it. Okay, is it clear? So guys, there is some problem. There is some not problem actually. There is a difference in the populations. Some populations will be rapidly metabolizing a drug. Some populations will be slowly metabolizing a drug. For example, we have, these are called actually as, let us write for you, it is pharmacogenetic variations. Pharmacogenetic variations. In pharmacogenetic variations, the best example is I have a person, this is a person A, this is a person B. What happens, this person A, once I give him a drug, what happens that his liver is having, he's genetically made such that his genetics is made such that he is metabolizing the drugs very slowly. He is a slow metabolizer. I should first use a common word. Slow metabolizer. He metabolizes slowly. That means his drug will remain more in the blood circulation. That means his drug will remain more in the blood circulation, unmetabolized. He's slowly doing it. But in case of B, this person is having a fast acetylation or fast metabolization. He's a fast metabolizer. That means he will rapidly take drug, rapidly produce product, rapidly take drug, rapidly produce product, isn't it? Isn't it, guys? Rapidly take, rapidly finish, rapidly take, rapidly finish. So this is a fast metabolizer. This person will be having decrease in the drug effect because he will have decreased drug in the circulation. Okay, he has to give us, we have to give him multiple doses, we have to give him high doses so that the drug remains more in the circulation for a longer period of time. So the person who is slowly metabolizing something will either lead to, so there is now a probability that pharmacogenetic variations will either produce a toxicity in a person, or I will be having a lack of effect. Either it will be producing a toxicity as seen in case of slow metabolizer, or I will be having lack of effect, isn't it? So for example, acetylator I was saying. So if I say acetylator variations, we call it, acetylator polymorphism. Acetylation, we have two varieties of population. We have same slow acetylators, fast acetylators. Slow acetylators means I will have more toxicity. Fast acetylators, effect will be decreased. So we have a famous mnemonic, ship drugs. Which drugs are metabolized by acetylation? Ship drugs. Ship drugs are metabolized by acetylation. As for sulfonamides, H for hydralazine, I for isoniazid, P for procainamide. Procainamide, let me write cleanly, procainamide. Okay guys, is it clear? So that means I have to take care while I am giving these drugs. And there is also another problem that these drugs are causing a reaction in the person, that is drug lupus erythematosus. What else I can say about these drugs? By the way, can you tell me a benzodiazepine which is getting metabolized by acetylation? Can you tell me a benzodiazepine which is getting metabolized by acetylation? Clonazepam. Okay. Can you tell me an anesthetic which is getting metabolized by acetylation? Benzocaine, amantadine, nitrazepam, phenelzine, S-butylol, amantadine. These all are getting metabolized by acetylation. But just remember this SHIP at least. Okay. Now what is happening is, this was about acetylation business. Some patients in your wards, they will be coming to you with a chart in their hand. I'm just making a story so that you remember. They will be coming with a chart in their hand. Okay. They will say the chart is having, see, listen guys, listen, have a look here. The chart is having like this. Okay. So number one is acetylator polymorphism. Second is this chart system. See what is this chart. Once they come to you with this chart, you see this chart. The patient is coming with the chart in his hand. He tells you, doctor, once you start prescribing a drug, he says, doctor, stop. You will say, what happened? He will say, please first look at this chart. My doctor has told me to take this chart with me. I was diagnosed with something in my childhood or something. Saying like a story. I'm just making a story of myself. Okay. So he will be having written on it isoniazid. Write the drugs. Nalidixic acid. Chloroquine. nitrofurantoin, quinine, sulfonamides, primaquine. Okay, remember at least these. Okay. Dapsone, which is coming in the, so this chart he will be having in this hand. He will say, doctor has told me to show this chart once you are going to any medical attention or any medical intervention. Once you read this chart, you will understand. Even if you don't see the heading, you will directly come to know this chart he's having is about G6PD deficiency. This G6PD deficiency patient will tell you, don't give me these drugs. Or doctor has told me, whenever you visit a doctor, show him this chart. Why you can't give? Because it produces hemolysis in G6PD patients. I have taught you everything. Just check, go to your basics of cell pathology in DynPaths. This is a channel which is owned by me. I am teaching pathology on this channel, a separate channel for pathology. Okay, so you check it. I have taught this G6PD in great detail there. Okay, and I have taught it in physiology, I think, in the RBC physiology. That has been in the, I think, in the Google Drive it is present. Okay, Google Drive has many lectures which I was not able to. Some people recorded my lectures while I was teaching them, but then I officially, made the videos by myself and I put it myself on the YouTube. I will be uploading those soon once they share the link with me. Some students have recorded it while I was teaching. So hemolysis in G6PD deficiency. But it's not recommended for you to record something. Okay, don't record it. I'm recording it myself. Okay. So hemolysis in G6PD deficiency, it will be produced by this. Okay, because they don't have an enzyme, glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase. Glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase. G6PD deficiency patient means these patients don't have G6PD, that is glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase. Dehydrogenase. Is it clear, guys? Yeah. Now see, I am giving, succinylcholine. We give these in the anesthetics, isn't it? We have succinylcholine. So this was about the second point. This is under the pharmacogenetics. See how variations are there. Okay. So this can come into pharmaco because genetic makeup is such that, okay, he is a G6PD patient. So yeah, he is not having that. Same succinylcholine. You are giving succinylcholine in. So see, succinylcholine as for short. So short, it's a short, not even short, it's very short acting. Okay, drug. And who metabolizes this drug? It is pseudocholinesterase. Pseudocholinesterase is metabolizing this succinylcholine. So enzyme is pseudocholinesterase, which is metabolizing succinylcholine. Now what happens in some populations, in some people, this enzyme is malfunctioning. This enzyme is malfunctioning, or this enzyme is impaired, not working nicely. What will happen? This drug will not be, this drug will be present, more amount of drugs will be present there, isn't it? Since this enzyme is not doing anything. So what will happen? It produces a condition in this patient that is prolonged apnea. The patient will go into prolonged apnea. So that means, as an anesthetist has to take care of this thing also. Okay, because some populations may have pseudocholinesterase not working properly. So that is called an atypical pseudocholinesterase, which is not functioning properly. Atypical pseudocholinesterase. Are we clear, guys? And there are so many other things. Sometimes we are giving in the anesthesia too. We have halothane, which we give, causing the malignant hypertension. Or, anticoagulants, we are giving the coumarin anticoagulant. Some people may show resistance to those. Okay, you can write that. Some people showing resistance to coumarin derivatives. Coumarin derivatives. Coumarin is an anticoagulant we are producing. Okay. So guys, is it clear? So this is the pharmacogenetic. You have to remember at least that these populations have a different way of responding to a drug. Have a different way of responding to a drug. Is it clear? So see guys, okay. So we have done what? We have done acylator polymorphism. We have done this nitrofurantine. We have done this muscle relaxant also, isn't it? Muscle relaxant. Have you written? It's a muscle relaxant. You before going into anesthesia, you are relaxing the muscles of the patient, isn't it? So that you can nicely do the surgery. You don't want things to be in contraction. You have to take the care of the body. You are actually shifting the body metabolism. You are yourself now master of that metabolism. You are controlling the body now. That's what I mean to say. Okay. For example, I am going for, let us say like this, for example, in the hospital, once we have to do an endotracheal intubation, like the person is not able to breathe, or before the major surgery, I want to give patient a mechanical ventilation, I can say. Artificial ventilation I have to give. So there are so many ways to give, isn't it? So in surgery, we are putting an endotracheal intubation, and for that I am giving this succinylcholine. Okay. Normally, once I am giving, it is having less than 5 minute action. Less than 5 minute action. If you read the anesthetic drugs which I will be teaching you, it is having less than 5 minute action. But in some people, they have atypical acetylcholinesterases in which the metabolism becomes greater than 40 minutes. It becomes greater than 40 minutes. So it means it takes more time to metabolize this atypical way. So this will produce prolonged apnea in these patients. Yeah, lowering of temperature is also. So we have to maintain the temperature also. That will be learning in anesthesia. Okay. So that's definitely that will happen because you are shifting the body metabolism. So yeah, that will happen. So let us go to the last discussion. If we can complete that, I want to give you an idea. Basically, when you are giving a drug, this is a small topic, drug making. Once you are making a drug, now drug, you made a drug, okay? I should not use the word drug making. I think drug development is the appropriate word. Drug development. So you are giving a new drug. New drug development is there. Now there will be various phases about this drug. There will be a drug discovery phase, preclinical studies, clinical trials. Okay, this is the phase. New drug discovery means what I do is I select a compound. Okay, I select my target. I do a designing of the drug. A rational drug designing is done, and after that I am putting I'm finally selecting some compounds. I'm selecting some compounds. This process of selecting compounds, I'm not talking about compound. I'm saying selecting many compounds is called lead finding. Is called lead finding. Okay. Okay. Now after that, you will go through many processes. Okay. You don't have to read that. You have to go to many processes. From these, you have to take two or some drugs. These are several. So you have to choose two or three drugs. Okay. Now that two or three drugs, this is now called lead compounds. Lead compounds. Is it clear, friends? Lead compounds. Okay. Easy. After I investigated more, I am going towards lead optimization. I am going towards lead optimization. You say lead lead, I don't know, but lead optimization, you can understand that lead finding, lead compounds actually, and lead optimization. Okay. Now, once you reach a lead compound, guys, you are doing lead optimization too. Once you reach this lead compound is now going into preclinical studies. So you have ended the drug discovery phase at lead compounds. Okay. Okay. Yeah, you can go. Okay. It's recorded. Okay. It's recorded. Okay. It's recorded. Okay. It's getting recorded. So lead compounds, once you reach a lead compound phase, you are now going into the phase of preclinical studies. You are going to the phase of preclinical studies. Okay. There's a, if you, for what thing will you say that the drug is, or what thing will you say the drug is, a drug is a drug? What thing will tell you that a drug is a drug? You have a molecule, and I am telling you how you can say that is a, no, there is a rule. There is a rule. So how will you say that a drug is a drug? What are the properties that it should fulfill? There is a rule. I hope you have not read that. It is Lipinski rule of five. Lipinski rule of five. Lipinski rule of five states that if you want to call a molecule a drug, if you want to call molecule a drug, you should satisfy these five. No, you should satisfy this component. What, sir? It's not actually 5 points. It's five. That five, what five? Like this. Lipinski rule of five says it should have less than five hydrogen bond donors. It should have less than five hydrogen bond donors. It should have less than 500 Dalton molecular weight. It should have less than 500 Dalton molecular weight. It should have less than 5 partial coefficient log P. That is, partial coefficient of log P is basically what? Partial coefficient of log P I have taught you. What is the concept of partial coefficient of log P? It is telling me about that Henderson-Hasselbalch law of solubility, lipid solubility, isn't it? So less than 5 partition coefficient, less than 5 partition coefficient log of P, less than 5 partition coefficient, okay, partition log of P. What is this log of P telling? This is telling us about lipid solubility, okay. And you should have less than 10 hydrogen bond acceptors. This was, above one was less than 5 hydrogen bond donors. This is the Lipinski rule of 5. Is it clear? Just a small thing for you, okay. So this is what we understand. Now you are in the preclinical studies. What you will be doing? You will be grabbing a mouse, isn't it? You will be grabbing a mouse. Grab a mouse. Preclinical, you are in preclinical. So in preclinical, grab a mouse, isn't it? You will take animals. Okay. Mice you can take, guinea pig you can take. Once you take these small animals, you test these drugs on small animals, then you will go to large animals also. You can take the large animals also. Which animals? Monkey, cat. Okay. Monkey or cat you can take. So you will be studying what is a preclinical study. If they ask a question, preclinical study means where I am studying the therapeutic index, where I am learning the toxicology, where I am learning the pharmacodynamics. Okay, and whatever effects you can see, you choose those effects, which compound showed us those effects. Then you proceed towards clinical trials. Okay, now what you do is, once first, if you want your drug to come into the market, what you have to do is you have to test it very much exhaustively. You have to check its safety, you have to check its efficacy. If those studies will tell us that it is safe, it is efficacious, it is not having any sort of a grave adverse effect, then I file an affidavit sort of a thing, that is called IND, investigational new drug. IND is filed where? United States FDA. Have you read FDA? Every time they say FDA is saying this, FDA is saying this. What is this? United States Food and Drug Administration. United States Food and Drug Administration. Okay, this is all this agency. Think like it is WHO. It is regulating everything on this drug and every business. Now he files an application with this. Once they give you the permission that yeah, your drug is having this, now your drug will be tested in humans. Your drug will be tested in humans. If you are testing this drug in humans, we call it clinical trials. Now clinical trials is having phases. We have a 0 phase, we have 1 phase, we have 2, 3, 4. That we will be reading in the next video. Thank you very much for your patience and listening. God bless you. We will continue this from tomorrow. Okay. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe so that you can have videos of all the MBBS, all 19 subjects will be given to you in great exhaustive detail. No need to worry about studies. Keep learning, keep reading books, believe in yourself, have confidence. Bye bye.